Welcome back to Comfort Breeze Complacency. This is episode 8. Today we're joined with professional trail runner, skydiver, and new base jumper, Allie McLaughlin, otherwise known as Allie Mac. So thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. It's so cool to run into you at Skydive Arizona, and yeah, stay connected now.
I want to have you on. I first started this podcast in the fall. I'm only on episode 8, but I remember because I watch you on like the Golden Trail World Series, and I wanted to have you on eventually. I just want to build up some more kind of episodes and credibility. And then randomly, I was in, like I said, Arizona for Skydive Arizona for a couple weeks, and went on my first balloon jump and looked over, and there you were. And it was kind of a funny thing, but yeah. So I'm glad you could join me here today. That's awesome. Appreciate it.
So perfect.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could kind of just start with kind of where you started and kind of where you are up to like where you are today throughout your like running career and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So I started running in high school, but I didn't join the cross country team until my junior year. I played ice hockey and lacrosse. And then when I didn't make the U19 AAA hockey team, then that kind of opened the door to have time and join the cross country team. And yeah, it was a godsend. I loved it. And then end up going to CU for college. I won state my senior year, and I knew I wanted to continue. So and college was awesome. I love CU so much. I loved my coaches. I did go through the ringer of injuries there, though. Freshman year was awesome, but then it was just one thing after another, and I didn't really compete much after my freshman year. And so when I got out, I always knew I loved the trails, and I always wanted to do the Pikes Peak ascent because growing up in Colorado Springs, I hear about it every year. So my first year out, I actually did the U.S. Mountain Champs that year before the ascent, and I won that, and I went to Worlds. But yeah, I won the Pikes Peak ascent that year, and it kind of just like showed me there was a whole community in trail running and a whole race series and all that stuff. So that was my segue into trail running. But I was very conscious about distance. Like I would not do anything over a half marathon, even in training. Having a history of injuries, I just thought high mileage equaled injuries. And so, yeah, I love short stuff, and I still do, but for a long time, I very much shied away from long distance running. And that went on until 2020, actually, when a lot of races were canceled, and the Pikes Peak Ascent was canceled, but they held the marathon because they couldn't shuttle people down because of COVID, but they were willing to hold the marathon because everyone would just run up and come down themselves. And so I was healthy and feeling good that year. I was like, well, I guess I'm doing the marathon. That's the only option. And it was so fun. I fell 3 times, had like 8 stitches in my knee. I led most of the way, but ended up getting third after falling and bonking because I didn't take gels. I had Kahlua during the race. That's a whole nother story. But anyways, that opened my eyes to longer stuff, and now I like anything below 50K. But yeah, backing up a little bit, that's how I got into trail running and slightly longer stuff. But I had several breaks within those years of either injuries or mostly injury related. But I had hip surgery in 2016, and that's how I got into skydiving. I healed pretty fast. It was like 2 months that I could run and move well, but I just didn't feel like training hard or racing. And I was on a dirt bike trip to Moab and met some base jumpers, and that's when I fell in love with wanting to base jump. But to base jump, they recommend you skydive first and everything. So that's what they told me. And a few months later, I learned to skydive. And then 6.5 years went by that I toyed with the idea. It was like, I was happy with skydiving. Skydiving was super fun. Base jumping would scare me every so often. So I was like, maybe I don't need to do it. And then it's also expensive. It's more gear. the course cost money and stuff. And then everything just kind of fell into place, one thing after another, starting last December. And then I got to take my course in March this year, and I couldn't be happier with it.
I was following along on your Instagram and stuff, seeing you off the bridge and everything. So how many skydives do you have? 300 and something, you were saying?
Yeah, like I kind of lost count, but I say 330, 340.
And they recommend like an average 200-ish minimum before you start base.
Yes, and like, and I've, like, me personally, I've like wondered why, and I've talked to other people, and like, because it's like it's very different, but after going, the course I chose to do was 2 weeks long. A lot of courses are like 4 days. And again, I couldn't be happier of how it led me. I've known Matt, he's the guy who did my course, for about 6.5 years. I met him like right when I was getting interested in base jumping and Moab and stuff. And he is just so thorough, very philosophical in ways, and I couldn't have felt more prepared getting to the bridge. We did so much in Moab beforehand. But with that said, going back to like having the base of skydiving knowledge, just like it's like knowing equipment and knowing risers, even though like how to disconnect from one system to the other, just having that familiarity. Like flying the parachute is one thing, but actually a base canopy is totally different anyways. But I do think just having that general foundation of skydiving is a good idea. And I'm glad I see why they want you to have that background for sure.
How many jumps did you get during your course?
I got 9, which like is not that much. We had so many. I think we only got to jump 2 days we were there for a whole week, and it was snowing and windy and bad weather. But I was super happy with 9. We did 4 one day, 4 another day, and then right before we were leaving, it was snowing again, but the winds were so calm, and I was like back and forth. I was like, I don't know, like we could fit one more in. And of course, I'm so glad we did. I did an unpacked where it's called a tard, and you just throw your chute in the air and like step off, and then it comes out. And I had seen Miles Dazier do it like 30 minutes before in the snow, and we were standing on the side, like we weren't on the railing, we were like side of the bridge. So it was like this slight snowfall, and he just like jumps, and it was like almost like slow motion. It looked like a little fairy, and I was like, okay, I want to do that. So Matt, like, it was really cold though, and he helped me set it all up, and he didn't jump. He watched me and waited for me at the top, but it was really special. We didn't film it, which I'm really bummed, but I will like hold that memory so close.
That's funny you mentioned Miles. He was the last person on the podcast, so
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, no, he was telling me all about getting into base because I eventually do want to get into it. I'm only at 114 jumps right now for skydive, so I kind of want to get a bit more progress in that and try a bit more, like learn more stuff. But eventually, I do want to get into it. But yeah, it was cool seeing you, like an endurance athlete that has interest and passion and stuff like that. I was wondering if you could kind of explain, like, personally to me, I know like a lot of endurance athletes, their sport or what they do is kind of like all that they're interested in. It seems like a lot of the time, like they might have some cross training things, but all kind of builds into their sport. How has like getting into skydiving or now base, like have other people in the sport been kind of like, oh, that's crazy, or like how have you like justified this to sponsors who may have like a vested interest in you and kind of like justify to them that, oh, I'll be safe, or like that this is worth doing, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'll start off, thankfully, with sponsors. Like before, I've been skydiving longer than I've been sponsored, and then the base jumping's very new, but since I was already doing it, they've been so supportive of it. They know that's me, and I think that's what makes, like, I'm not going to say that's what makes me a better runner, but it does, like, mentally having that diversity, having that other community, even like not even just the act, it's just like the people too. When I'm having a like rough go in running, like say it's an injury or anything, it's so nice to be able to like switch gears and go do something else for a little while. And that was really helpful in my comeback to running back in 2017 or so. It was really cool to kind of, because we get that identity of like that's where everyone knows us as a runner, and yeah, I'll admit it gets kind of hard when it's not going as well. And so like to have that skydiving community during that time was really, really helpful. And then when I started running again, it was fun. It was awesome to have both. Train in the morning and then go get jumps in, and then I'm not like obsessing about running. Like it takes your mind away off of all the like splits and training and recovery, and just kind of, yeah, you get into be in a different space. So yeah, but yeah, no, On was always supportive, and now Hoka is super supportive. We actually have a few things planned involving skydiving and base jumping and paragliding. Actually, I'm hoping to fly over UTMB. We're getting a wing that will say "Fly Human Fly." Super stoked about that, and then we're also planning a film. I'll be just running. I won't be jumping or anything, but my really good friend Katie Hansen, who's like a world champion in many disciplines, but a very good wingsuiter. We're gonna do a base jumper versus runner, where we start on a cliff and she takes off flying and I have to run down, and it's a race. And but like it's more of a cinematic film. So yeah, and Hoka is going to be part of that. So yeah, I'm really excited to combine my two favorite sports and my two favorite groups of people.
That'll be super cool to see. I know on your balloon jump, that was kind of your like announcement for Hoka, because you just got signed by them instead of On. So that was cool to see that the video kind of after it was all completed, and like seeing you doing it in the process, and like the one arm swing off the rope was pretty cool.
That, yes, and the whole "Fly Human Fly." I am not ashamed to say that all the time now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Is that was like my very first balloon jump in Arizona. Is that feeling similar to what you felt in base? That like feeling of the dead air?
It is. However, like my body handled the base jumping a lot different because yes, it's that feeling, but then you do hit terminal eventually in the balloon, and that kind of catches you, and then yeah, it feels like skydive. I and I don't like I think I was just unusually, I don't want to say bad at it, but like the other guy in my course, like he just had great body control. I would get, and I don't get this in a balloon. Granted, my last one, the rope swing, was a totally different situation. But if I was to just like jump like belly to earth out of a balloon versus the bridge, like I hit 2 seconds and I start doing the like roll the windows up, and then seeing video, my legs like flutter. And after like my second stowed, I had a little more control, but still, right? Like, and I pull quick. I have not
No low pulls.
played around with taking it low, but and so yeah, I pull pretty quick, but still within that, like when I hit 3 seconds, I get that jitters in the arms, and yeah, it's scary. Like it's a fun feeling, but it's also like a nauseous feeling, and I'm getting more used to it. I'm getting better body control, but yeah, I think the balloon is similar and it's fun, but my body handled it very different.
Yeah. Do you have any once you get more into the base, do you have any projects that you or like locations that you really want to hit?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. Thank you, because I was asked that a couple times during the course, and Yeah, and I was like, wow, I've thought about it, but I didn't think of it in that way. Like, what goals do I have? Because we have goals in running and stuff, but base jumping, I hadn't really thought about it. And then they just came flooding in. It was like, yeah, I want this to be a forever lifelong sport. Like, I don't want to get injured in it, and all that. And so I want to be smart. I want to pick special jumps that are meaningful. I'm not just going to be going random stuff here and there with, that might happen. But obviously Moab's amazing, but I'm not to cliffs yet. And there's a few cliffs in Moab, but I don't have a desire to like just do all of them. So to answer the question, my really big exciting things that I want to do in base jumping are in general, I'm excited for buildings. I want to like sneak in. I want to play the role. I want to have an awesome little group. I want to like dress up, go have some cocktails, like be all fancy, and then slowly sneak up to the roof, and then we jump off. And so I don't have any particular buildings in mind, but I will it'd be cool to do some fancy ones. And then I want to go for the 24-hour record at the Prime Bridge. Miles had the record, and then he got beat recently, and Danny Wayland. I think the record is 64. And I met a guy during my course who's going for it in September. We'll see what he gets, but the cool thing is the bridge. It's 400 feet high. And so every jump you have to climb out, and it's an awesome trail. It's like, I did not expect it to be so cool. It's like all mostly walk runnable to a point, and then there are some handheld rock boulders you have to crawl up. But it's definitely fitness geared and will take endurance. And then the whole 24 hours. I've never done anything like that. Like, I haven't done ultra really, but I'm hoping in the base jumping, I feel like I have a lot to go. I only have 9 jumps. Like, I have a lot to work there, but if I'm doing it, if the record's at the bridge anyways, I can just train there. I think I'll do half stowed, half unpacked. And I've already talked to so many people, runners and base jumpers, and they're like, I will be there to crew and pack and hike with you. And so if you would love to be there, please, I would love for you to be part of my crew.
Yeah, let me know. That'd be awesome. That'd be super cool.
Yes, and especially hiking through the night, it would be so fun to have people. So that's probably my biggest goal in base jumping right now.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be super cool to see. I bet you can get it for sure. Got that fitness based, probably better than anybody else who's done it. So
I would hope. Yeah, it was harder than I thought, and going through the night, Miles has a lot of energy.
Yeah, he does. He was cooking a big omelet when he was on here last. It was funny.
That's great. Yeah, and so I did meet him, but I did not. I was really quiet. I just said hi and stuff. But as I get more into the community, I would love to talk to him about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. While you're doing all these things, I know you have a converted, a Sprinter van, is it?
Yeah.
Do you want to kind of talk about that, getting that and everything?
Yes. So it's actually not fully built out. It is somewhat. We have a fridge, heat, and electricity. And then the bed is we I just keep it in the back, and then at night I clear the floor and lay it down for Harley, my golden retriever, and me. But we get by more than fine. And this year we spent 3 months so far on the road. We're back in Colorado now, but I'm just getting tired of winter. so it was so great too. We did spend December here, which, I think seasons, we were given seasons for a reason, and it is to give your body rest at different times of year. And so, it was good to kind of chill out and not run as much in December, but I was getting kind of antsy. And so, middle of January, we took off for Arizona and got down there, spent a little time in Phoenix, and then Tucson, and then back to Phoenix, and we had Skydiving in Arizona in between there. And so my dog and I, we were there for 2 months before leaving for Moab for the base course and then Idaho. And that time in Arizona was so much fun. This is the longest we've been on the road so far. Like eventually, I think we could do it for a year once we get it full built out. But it's so... one of my friends, I don't know if Zach Miller, he's a really good runner for the North Face ultra runner. We've been friends for a while, and he's living in a bus most of the time. And he said something in a video that I connected with so much. He's like, it's a puzzle piece. You're constantly figuring out where your next night is going to be or where you're staying next. But like the fluidity that your body gets of being in the new places and running in new places is just so worth it. And with Phoenix, gosh, there are trails. I mean, I love Colorado, and Colorado's home and amazing, but I was astonished by the amount and quality of trails that are down there. Like we went for 3 weeks last year. And so I kind of knew some of the spots and we went back, but we had so much more time that, oh my gosh, I'm just in love. The weather was awesome, and I think it's going to be a yearly thing to at least escape winter. I would definitely do Phoenix the next couple of years because, it became home, and I think that's something about the van too. Is like I never really didn't feel at home. There was like a few times I was like a little homesick for my friends in Colorado, but you make so many friends and on the road that it's awesome.
It must be nice having Harley with you the whole time.
Absolutely. She loves the road. Like you can tell when we're home, she just like wants to be. Actually, there's some days like if I'm working on the computer, she'll just hang out in the van in the driveway. I probably don't even. I hook her up on the long rope just because I'm a mother, but she. There's some days I just let her out the front door and she'll just hop in the van and just with the door open. And so, yeah, she's definitely a fan of the van. And, and like safety reasons, it's kind of nice she's smaller, but she has a bark and she'll be aggressive if she needs to, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I know all that, all those struggles and everything about the kind of van style. I bought a short school bus in 2018 and converted it with my dad and got like the solar and everything. And I lived in it for a while over COVID because I just didn't have a place to stay when COVID hit. But yeah, I always loved being able to like take it to my triathlon races and sleep like right on the course and be the first one there in the morning. And then like all these people are trying to find like their way in and where to park and like stressing about getting up early, and you can just like have everything, do your stretch and warm up like right in the van and just like be right on site for the races. I always found that super like helpful, and it always gave you a little place to call home that like felt actually like home. So
yeah. Okay, you nailed it. I didn't even say that, but yes, waking up like and not having to drive in the morning and never having to worry about a hotel like or a place to stay. It's just you just park where you are.
Yeah. No, I've always really liked that.
That's so cool. You had that. Do you still have it?
Yeah, it's actually my daily driver, so it fits in like any normal spot. It's just like taller than a normal truck or something, but I think it's less conspicuous than like a Sprinter van, let's say, because it's like a seafoam green school bus now, so you kind of get the people like looking in and all that stuff. But I just drive it just as my daily, so.
Okay, cool. We'll stay in touch about like I might if I start to build it out a little more. Mostly I have some friends who it's like their part-time job, but I'm gonna try to do a few things myself. So, and I'm always looking for different design ideas. So cool.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite parts is just like picking and pulling from people I saw. I don't know if you know, he's the like base jumper and he did all the like cliff jump guys on Chase on YouTube, Adrenaline Addiction.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
He was like one of the reasons I really wanted to get a bus, and like I remember seeing he had a loft bed in his, and I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. So like I put a loft bed in mine, but just like picking and pulling from different places you've seen, it's always like cool to see. So
and put all your favorite ideas together. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I was kind of wondering, talking about now you are sponsored by Hoka. When you were first getting into that, because that's kind of the point I'm at now. I got a couple sponsors like my watch brand, Koros, and Energy Bar, Hornby, but I'm looking at like taking that next step to do bigger sponsors for the projects I'm doing and races and everything. How did you kind of get in first with On and now Hoka, like these kind of bigger sponsors?
Yeah, really great question because it was in 24, I'll start with 2014. That was my dream to like be sponsored because I was racing girls who were fully sponsored and I was beating a lot of them, and so I didn't, and that's all, like I thought it would be so cool to represent a brand, blah blah blah. And so I reached, like, there were people that were like kind of helpful or like would put me in contact with people, and I was talking to a couple companies, and it was so rough. Like you would just kind of, you would be having a conversation and then just kind of get ghosted. And that happened with a couple companies. And then that was through 2014, and I had a pretty good ending to that season, and I was so excited for 2015, and then my hip started hurting, and that went on for a year, and then I had surgery in 2016, and I came back in 2017 on the U.S. team, but I kind of, once I got moved to Nashville and got into skydiving, I totally just kind of like, I was an ambassador for Solomon for a little while, but that was nothing, and so like, I just, the idea kind of just went away for a long time, and yeah, just got into film, and it was no longer an option, I guess I should say. And then in 2020, I ran some races earlier in the year, and that was a weird time for everyone. But I got a note over Instagram from Andrew Weeding, who I had known a little bit in college. I took an official visit to Oregon and stuff. But anyways, turns out he was working for On, or he still does, but they were building their trail team. And he had been given my name by some people. And yeah, and so then like he was like, we're building a trail team and we're interested in having you on that. And so it was very, I want to say kind of random, because like, I'm thankful my name was still put in there. Probably just, it was actually, I think, David Kilgore, who's now the trail manager, but I ran in college with him, and he knew I was doing trail stuff, had done trail stuff. And so like, it was really, really special because I was happy yes, I know they were just building it, but I hadn't done crazy stuff within like the last couple years before that. So for them to like still like believe I was decent enough to be on their team. So yeah, it was a really basic contract, like no salary or anything, but some good bonuses and apparel and shoes and all that. And yeah, and I really did fall in love with the company, and the people were awesome and all that. And then so that was for a 2-year contract. And then after this last year with Golden Trail and everything, I really didn't have intentions to leave until then. My good friend Peter Maximo, who's kind of helped as an agent, I did all the talking, but he was super helpful behind the scenes. He got me in touch with a few more companies. He's like, I just like think you should like, you haven't been with anyone else. I think you should like see what else is out there. And he talked to someone at Hoka who called me right away, and wow, they just were really, really, really interested in having me as a part of it. And they asked me like what I would be looking for, and they exceeded my expectations by a whole lot. And they made it really easy. And yeah, and so they were able to offer more than On was. And so, yeah, that's kind of how I ended up there. So to answer your question, it was a tough road in a way, because like when I wanted it so bad and was like trying to reach out, it didn't really work. And then things kind of fell into place. But, yeah, I would say like, and I can stay in touch, like it's good to have the right people to talk to, because if you're talking to just someone lower in the company, that's kind of hard to like really get your voice out there. But yeah, like you said, if you have project ideas, and that was what's both On and Hoka were both really supportive of my project ideas. And ultimately, I think Hoka right now is a little bigger in the trail scene. They're a little further along than On, so that was another, not so much in like design, but just in their place in trail running. Like they're sponsoring all the big events right now, and they're really big in their media and promoting their athletes. And I don't know how long, our running careers are, so I kind of had to take that, like take that opportunity while it's there. But yeah, I would say just like, yeah, we can talk more offline, but I think getting the sponsors, just getting out and like to a lot of races, and yeah, and then finding the right people to present your ideas to.
Yeah. Yeah, I always thought it was cool too. I like when I first followed you on Golden Trail, I'd see photos of you with like your on canopy while skydiving too. That was pretty cool to see.
Oh yes, yes, that was so special to get, and yeah, and now Hoka's gonna get some made, and I'm just forever thankful that they, like, I, I don't, I don't think I'm a like showy person, but I love to like, if I'm skydiving, might as well have a canopy that's just like I'm really proud of Hoka, or at that time On, like I love representing things, and I like to do it in a loud way, and I'm like, well, what better way than skydiving and having it just say it all over.
Yeah, I thought that's pretty cool, like about your personality too. When I saw in one of the Golden Trail series races, you had done like dressed up. Was it like Fight Club stuff or?
Oh yes,
Yeah,
Marla.
yeah, yeah. It's always cool to see stuff like that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I got a little over the top last year, and I can use the excuse that it was around Halloween, and like that was like my excuse to my parents. But I'm like, I'm gonna dress up no matter what time of year it is. But I don't have any specific plans. Harley Quinn is definitely my like main character I like to be. That's who my puppy's named after, and my base rig is gonna be all Harley Quinn. So I think one race this year, I'll definitely pull a Harley Quinn again.
Nice. To talk about racing stuff, I was kind of wondering if you could maybe go over like one of your toughest races you've ever had, or like your proudest performances you've had, or
Yeah. Let's see. I have a couple. I think. Okay. I don't know if I want to say. Yeah, it was probably toughest. Pikes Peak Marathon, my first one, where I essentially bonked, and I fell 3 times, and just like I've never felt so exhausted and like wanting to take a nap and blood pouring out of my knee. And like in my head, I'm like, oh, am I losing blood? Like, why am I feeling like this? But I'm like, no, it's just because you didn't have enough gels. And I was like, I don't know if there's an aid station. And my friend had sent me with a little shot of Kahlua, because we had in training, we'd take shots at the top of mountains, and he was like, you should take this. And I was like, okay, but I'm not taking it at the top. I still have to come down. And then I ended up having it halfway down. Thank God. I feel like it like saved my life. But yeah, that was tough. However, it's turned into, rather than saying, oh, that was one of the worst races, that is one of my favorite memories of a race. Just so many different things happened, and feelings, and coming down before I started to bonk, I was not as confident in my downhill. And so like I was like 10 minutes ahead at the top, but still I was like, I gotta beat my butt down. Like I do not want to get caught. And so I just took off like sprinting from the get-go, the turnaround. And I think my first fall was like 3 miles down, and I was so like upset about it. But then I looked down, I just see blood pouring. I was like, well, at least I have something to show for it. Like, yeah, that hurt, but at least I have something to show. And so then I kept running really fast, and there was this one turn where there's an aid station, and I just ran into the table. Like, I thought I was slowing down, but my body did not slow down, and I just took the table out. The cups of water just went everywhere. And I was like, I am so sorry. They're like, it's fine, just go. They're like, just get out of here. We will fix it. So yeah, that happened. And then I fell again, and then the bonk started to hit, and yeah, I ended up getting third. So that was probably like the most I've learned in a race, best memories, and yeah, the biggest struggle. And then last year, a lot of awesome races, but I think Mount Marathon in Alaska, I had heard of that race, been told to do that race, had wanted to do that race for about 8 years, and it all worked out to go up last year, and not only to win but to get the record from Emily Forsberg. Like, that was a huge confidence boost, and like I didn't really ever think about getting the record until like a few days before. The one guy who was showing me the course was he's actually from Colorado Springs, and he had been really supportive that whole year training for it, and he was all calculated, and he's like, you can get the record. And so like the day before I was like, okay, maybe I'll go, maybe I can, and I did, and it was really special.
That's awesome. Did when kind of was, I know you said you raced in college and university, when did you kind of feel or realize that you were like, you could hold your own with like these world's best, and like you felt like you belonged?
Yeah, like, so are you talking like in trail running or back in college?
Like in trail running.
Okay, yeah. So that first year, let's see, I made the US team in July, I think it was. Yeah, and then Worlds was in September. And so I won the US Nationals. And so that was cool. But again, I wasn't fully aware of like, you kind of, when you're new at something, you're like, am I really good? Or is it just like, it's a smaller community, maybe there's just not as much competition. And then I got third at Worlds, and the winner was Andrea Meyer from Austria, and she was at Worlds this year too, and she got second to me, which was like, it was so cool to see her 8 years later. We're both still racing. But yeah, she won, and I had heard so much about her. Like, she has such longevity. Even back in 2014, she had a great record. And then the second place girl was from Kenya. And to have, like, I don't know, gotten third to someone from Kenya and Austria and these like very well-known running countries, I think that's when it hit me that I was like, holy cow, like I'm mixing it up with them. So that was a kind of eye-opener, I guess.
Yeah. Have you found like throughout your athletic career, anything you've done, have you ever done incorporated things like journaling or visualization, mental skills? I know like throughout all the things I've done, like I started journaling like 3 years ago, and it's really helped me, like even doing like post-action reports or ultras or things like that, and like taking all these lessons learned and then incorporating them for the next ones, or helping you like stack your previous highs and make them like the new baseline. Have you found that you do any like active mental skills work, or is it just kind of intangible stuff? Or
yeah, I have not really. I used to keep track of like all my workouts in like a little written calendar, like each day's a square. And I got into like, yeah, I would write really fancy and pretty, and I would love, yeah, just having that. And then like I could go back years of like, okay, at this time of year, what was I doing? And I still do. Gosh, I will look back at 2014 and see, like, compare my times now. But the sad thing is I don't do that anymore. So for the last like 5 years or so, I don't have that, except I do have it on Strava, but it's like harder to like, I mean, you can search the dates and stuff, but it's a little harder to find. And yeah, and I think it would be so cool to do some of the stuff you've talked about. I'm just a very, very scattered person. And like I and I'm disciplined in some ways, but not in that way. But for me, like mentally, like talking about how like you journal and stuff, I think I handle it by not thinking about it so much. And I'm trying to think, like going to Golden Trail Series last year, I don't even know where my mind was. I wasn't so much focused on the overall. I was just kind of going into the race, but I really try compared to my 2014 self, which was very regimented and calculated and wrote down my workouts and all that. And now I do none of that. If I go and have more, like the more fun I can have, I think the better I race. And so I try to just like I don't even think about the race. I just try to do all the other things that so I don't have to think about it, and then I can just go run. Because actually, in the race, during the run, that's my comfort zone. Everything outside, thinking about it is kind of stressful to me. So yeah, so no, I haven't incorporated that, but I think occasionally I visualize. I will say I do that, especially if I know the course. I think Mount Marathon definitely. It's such a like intricate course that I remember kind of visualizing that quite a bit. But that's probably the extent.
Yeah. Have as far as like cross training or actual training for running, do you incorporate things like lifting as well, or like strength stuff, or is it more or less just running, or is it like what's kind of like a typical training week?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. I used to like love lifting and like lifting heavy and stuff, and then I kind of didn't for a while, and then now I feel like I found a middle ground that I'm loving, where 2 days a week after workouts I will go to the gym, but it's not like super heavy stuff. It's more like explosive stuff, so like box steps, box jumps, squat jumps, and in between I do a lot of different kinds of push-ups, and so that kind of encompasses most of my lifting. And then I do, as far as cross training, if I have to, like if I'm injured in a way that the gym is okay but running is not, really into the elliptical and Stairmaster. But then there's some weeks that I'll try. I don't do this like regularly, but it's really I like to do it a few times a year, do some doubles where I like do a hard workout in the morning and then maybe the Stairmaster in the afternoon. Yeah, so I definitely do love the gym, but I also kind of am in the philosophy though, which I learned in college, is like my coaches were not into that stuff very much. And so they would always say, running is what gets you good at running. They weren't into all these other ways of working out, which I don't like. I do love cross training to a point, and so but when I was working a lot more or just even having Harley, like I don't have it like if I don't have time, then running is the priority. Like if I have a choice between like running in a cross train and lifting, like running takes priority for sure. And then if I have time for the other stuff, I'll fit it in.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Other than like skydiving, the base jumping, on top of running, do you have any other like activities you like to do, like mountain biking or stuff like that? Or
Yeah, I like I love downhill biking, but I do not like. I do have a lot of friends who mountain bike, and something about it is probably because I don't have my main bike is a downhill bike, which is really heavy, but I feel really slow on a bike compared to other people. So no, I'm not a big mountain biker, but in the summer I do love like in the afternoons doing a few downhill. I probably only go a couple days though, because again, and that gets expensive taking the lift up. But yeah, love downhilling, and then and dirt biking. Dirt biking is one of my favorite things, and especially during the season, if I'm out in Moab or something, I have some friends with dirt bikes as well, and then I have some friends who've just like ridden mine, and it's really funny. Like, there's a handful of people who they like it or they think it's cool or whatever, but they'll be like, I just prefer man-powered. Like, you don't get a workout on a dirt bike. And I was like, okay. And then they get on it and they realize how fun it is. But I'm like, this is my philosophy. I love being outdoors. I love adventuring and stuff. But running is my priority. And so I will go for my workout or long run in the morning. And then what do you do the rest of the day? Like, you know, especially when you're in Moab, it's like, oh, we could go for a bike ride or we could go for a hike, but that's just more, and then you're just like tiring out your legs more. Not saying I can't do a hike in the afternoon, but you hop on your dirt bike and we go miles and get to these beautiful, beautiful spots. And you're still outside, you still get like that a pretty cool endorphin feeling being on the dirt bike because you're going so fast or you're gripping hard or whatever, but you're not tiring out your legs. And so I'm like, it's the perfect combination. So I love a good long run and then a good long dirt bike.
Yeah, I always like that. I even when I'd go on like that Arizona trip or something, try and do like my run in the morning or after skydiving, but then having something to do during the day outdoors is always fun, even when it's like a different community of people and all that.
Totally, yeah.
I heard you talking about some injuries you had at certain points. I know I've dealt with lots of injuries myself over the years. When you were, do you want to kind of mention like some of the ones that you had, and like, did you feel when you were out? I don't know if you were out completely. It sounded like it. Did you kind of feel like a loss of identity, not being able to do the things that you kind of are known for, or in your mind it's like the person you are?
Yes, and I've gotten way better at it now, though. Having other activities and communities a part of my life. But yes, that was a huge thing in 2015-ish when my hip started having problems and then I had surgery. And even though I wasn't sponsored or anything, so like I worked at iHeartRadio, like I had a job, I was into film, I had other things, but living back where I was living in Colorado Springs where I grew up, went to high school, and had gone to college for running, and like I felt like that's what everyone knew me as, like a runner. And then when you get hurt, you're almost like, I didn't really want to be around a lot of it. Like I still had my close friends, but like I didn't want to go to races or anything and not be running. And then just like, being known as that, I wanted to kind of escape it all. And so I moved that wasn't the reason I moved to Nashville, but I moved to Nashville to get more into filming, and I wanted to do music videos. But I think a small percentage was like, of moving, it was like, I just want to like get away from being known as a runner. Everyone's so outdoorsy and running in Colorado. Like I want to go work on film and live in a city. And so that's what I did. I moved to Nashville, and it was great. I could like start this whole new identity, and that's when I started skydiving too. And so I had all my skydiving friends. I'm like, they don't know me as a runner. They don't care if I run or not. And then, but literally, let's see, I moved in January, and then in April, like I started running again once I got there. And then in April, I ran the rock and roll half marathon, and it's not very competitive there. And so I won, and oh my gosh, like the pizza place I worked at, like I was in the newspaper in Nashville, and then everyone in skydiving knew, and I was like, well, I guess I'm a runner again. Like everyone was just so amazed, like, what, you won? And like I said, it wasn't as competitive, but they see like me in the headlines, and they're not part of the running community, so they think this is like some humongous deal, and it was super fun. But yeah, I'm like, well, once a runner, always a runner. But yes, to answer your question though, I definitely feel that like identity thing. But now, years later, when it happens, I mean, I haven't had a huge injury that I'm out of the sport, thank God. But when I have little things or something, like even this winter, I wasn't doing much, and luckily, like eyes aren't on you at that time of year. But it is great to have the other sports to kind of fall back on.
That makes sense. Yeah, I know what you mean by like people saying like, well, that's crazy. Like in the skydive community or whatever, 100 jumps isn't considered much at all. But like you say that somebody who's never jumped, it's like wild. than like some of my, again, skydiving friends say, oh, like you're training like 100-mile week or something, and to ultra people that's like a normal week, but it's like to them it's like unimaginable. It's like what? So yeah, it's funny like the difference in communities and stuff.
Totally. It's kind of fun. Like in some ways you're looked at kind of crazy, but at the same time it's nice to like have a different perspective than just being the same as everyone else.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. What about your like upcoming races? Do you have kind of like a dream race that you want to do at some point? Or I know you won one of the UTMB events, so you'll be going to the real UTMB at some point, right?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna do OCC again.
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And you're gonna try. When's your qualifier?
Mine's supposed to be on May 6th. I actually, after I got back from Arizona, I had pain in my leg and I got a bone scan and found out I have this like freak stress fracture in my femur. So I was off for like a month and a half. So I just started running back to like 5K at a time, but so I'm planning to still go, but I changed my distance from the 72K to the 28, and it'll more just be like I won't be really competing, but everything is paid for, so I'm going to just go and just see what I can do. But yeah, I was supposed to also do like the Destination Trail, the Triple Crown, the 200s this year, like Moab 200 and stuff. But the first one's supposed to be in June, and then August, and then Moab 240s in October. So I don't know about the first two. Like I need to build up base again. So I'm hoping to be able to do Moab still, but yeah, the others, and then I do have one more UTMB qualifier in Mexico in November. So that, yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to be healthy and all that for that one. But, yeah, so.
Okay, like yeah, sorry to hear, but that reminds me to say how like if I had the choice to compete like once, like one big race, and then like you can't run after that, or never race again but get to run every day in your life, like easy choice. I would pick health and running every day, and I think that's a big thing I've learned. As much as like racing is awesome, just being able to run, like I've found so much joy in my training or just running every day. And so to hear that you're back running makes me so happy. Like the races, they'll come, whatever, but just to be back healthy is number one. And yeah, so I'm glad to hear.
Yeah, thank you. But so you did qualify for
OCC.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was kind of so thankful for friends and people in the community that will like that I respect, and I love their opinions, because I was thinking not doing OCC again. I got 6 last year, bonked. Like I was leading and bonked at 28, and yeah, and then struggled and I eventually got to the finish. It was fine. But like, yeah, great learning experience. But I was like, man, I don't know if I want to go through that again so soon. And then the whole qualification process. And I was like, it's kind of the baby race of the weekend. Like you have the big UTMB. But then like I talked to a few people and they're like, no, like they're all like pretty prestigious, especially OCC for people like who are there. It's really fun because you can watch it in a full, like it's 6 hours, like it's a little more intense, and just like hearing an outside perspective was really cool. So I was like, it did not take much to change my mind. I was like, okay, I'll do it again. But then I was like, then I got to qualify. And I thought racing and traveling in February was crazy. Like it's so early for me. Like I usually don't do much at that time of year, but yeah, got to Arizona for a month, put in some good miles and went, and now that seems like so long ago. My body doesn't even like feel the effects, I don't think. So yeah, so really cool to get that qualification over. Had a blast in New Zealand. Like the people that I was with and the new people I met, like probably friends I'll have forever. So yeah, all in all, good, qualified for OCC. And I think, yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, if OCC was like next week, I would not be prepared. But I mentally have plans of how I'm going to train a little better this year, get a few more longer stuff. Like I feel fit, but not 6 hours fit right now. So yeah, that's one of my big goals, and then a lot in between there.
That's awesome. Well, I was wondering if you kind of had any like advice to maybe younger athletes or just people in general looking to kind of follow their dreams and kind of do like what you're doing, but in their field.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think persistence and just doing it because you like it, no matter what it is. Like, yeah, you might have goals and reasons, like you want to get sponsored or you want like to have this job or that job. Like even in film, I wanted to be a director, which I did end up not chasing, but I think if I ultimately it's persistence. And I'm realizing, oh yeah, I said this to a friend the other day, and I mean it's very this is how it's worked out, but I think he could relate. And I was like, I feel like anything worthwhile, just because everything's showing up in my life now, but it's all stuff that I started chasing or following like 8 years ago, 8 to 10 years ago. And I'm like, I feel like anything worthwhile takes like 8 to 10 years. And then like he thought about it and could kind of relate. And like, I don't think you can put a number on it, but I'm realizing things are a process. And I'm someone who's like, I do like, I want it now. I start base jumping. I want to go jump off buildings now. Actually, I don't. I really don't. I'm going to take so much time there. But then even looking at that, it was like, I remember like in 2016, yeah, when I first saw him, I was like, I want to base jump now. But it was like, you got to learn to skydive, blah, blah, blah. And then once you like embrace the process and the rush kind of goes away, or the need to rush it, and then it all happens at the right time. And that's what's happening with running too. I would have thought, gosh, like I'm getting older and stuff, but actually like I just had one of my best years. And if you told me that in 2014, that like when I'm 32 you're gonna have one of your best years, and like like I would have never thought it would take that long, and I never thought I'd be patient enough. But yeah, just be patient.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you taking the time and talking with me today. It was nice to hear about your story and kind of the mindset.
Yeah, thank you. And I love what you're doing. I've gone through your other ones. Love the name of it. Awesome, awesome.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Did you want to shout out your social media? Or?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. My Instagram is Allie MC3. That's kind of like I don't have a big attention span, so I put most of all my social media into my Instagram. I'm sure it's gonna fade into something else one day. I don't know if I'll keep up, but yes, that's my Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me. That's episode 8, Allie Mac.
Thank you.
Keep her not so bad.